guys, I'm Layla. We are in Raid Shadow Legends today. We're going to be reading the lore story for the Knave of Hearts to go along with Alice's adventure. So right off the bat, he's got like this beating heart inside of his chest, and it's chained. Now, if you guys had watched the other stories I have released, he's mentioned briefly, I believe, in the Queen of Hearts story. And so I'm really curious to see how this works. He does happen to also be undead. It looks like with his face, it looks like he's had a little bit of trouble here, right? But he looks really cool. So I'm curious to see what happens. Like, what happens with the queen? And how is it that he ends up being an undead and up siding with Alice? So I really hope that they explain that in this lore. I haven't read it yet. I was saving it for you guys. So let's read it together. The Queen of Hearts had no idea where the man she later condemned as the Knave came from. She didn't care. He was one of many hundreds of Cleth cultists who served her. Surely, she thought later, when he was one of her most steadfast courtiers and formidable warriors, he was drawn to her enchanting beauty, bewitching demeanor, and intoxicating mind and power. The truth was that the Knave was a survivor. He was one of countless thousands of orphans in Anhel who had fled the brutal nuns of a church in Lamea orphanage. He learned about the cult of Cleth on the streets of Arnok, and that it promised so much more than the church. Immortality in this life. Something a boy who had seen much death in a short existence could be easily tempted by. This desire saw the Knave endure the cult's brutalities, which he found were no better than the church's. Hardened from his previous experience, by scheme and by fist, he dragged himself from the bottom of the hierarchy to a lower middle rank. With some degree of power and knowledge of how the cult functioned, he knew he had to fight a knight revenant to latch onto, one on the rise with allied soul shepherds if he wanted to live forever. After years of unrewarded hard work, the Knave encountered one calling herself the Queen of Hearts. She was arrogant, boorish, and ambitious. A combination of overwhelming self-assurance and beauty had given her a large following within a short period of time, and she was fabulously wealthy. The queen was an unusual character in that she was indifferent to the desires of other knights. Her temper was renowned, and her impulsivity led her to give wild rewards and terrible punishments. If he played his cards right, the Knave thought, he might be awarded a great prize. He did that for years. The rewards came: rank, prestige, fine armor, beautiful weapons. The Knave found his queen amusing for her ability to irritate other knight revenants, especially those who had spurred his desire for immortality. When the queen blessed him with a soul gem and a new host body for his essence, his commitment to her was cemented. Here was a woman who acknowledged his work and loyalty. Whatever her scheme, he vowed he would see it done as she desired. That was until the queen declared to her court that she intended to broker an alliance with the insect lords of Durham, or, if it failed, steal from them. She would gain their power and knowledge and use it to take the throne of Karok. The Knave was aghast. Like most people, he knew little of the insect lords. That was the problem. There was no predicting them. If they possessed such power as they were rumored, even he, the queen, and her bizarre wizard aide, the Mad Hatter, combined, would be no match for them. He said as much, dropping to his knees on the chessboard-patterned floor of the queen's court, begging her to reconsider. He wished nothing more than for her to become queen, but this was not the way. It was too dangerous. They could destroy everything she had built, and if this devoted service had meant anything to her, she would surely heed his words. The queen dismissed him with a roll of her eyes, calling him boring, and laughed at him. The whole court joined in. The Knave had enough wherewithal to bow before he left, face ruby red with shame. The next day, he sent a missive by Scarlet Warbeer to Durham Forest. The Mad Hatter, mad enough to be called mad, sane enough to know what he was doing, caught the Knave in the act. He was hauled before the queen. She proclaimed him Knave for his betrayal and had him beheaded there and then. His corpse and war gear were then dumped outside the court in a waste heap. That night, A tide of scorpions, beetles, spiders, and centipedes crowd out of a nearby woodland and came to the Knave's stinking remains. They carried his body, his head, and his war gear away. Over many days, they traveled to the heart of Durham Forest, presenting their gift to their masters. The insect lords remade the Knave. They sewed his head to his body with life-giving web weave. They affixed to his cuirass an enormous heart-shaped gemstone made from the solidified blessed venom of deathstalker scorpions, fire asps, and tigerweb spiders, blended with the enchanted secretions of deathcaps, which maintained the beating of his heart. Taking the queen's name for him, they declared him their Knave of Hearts, to be a thorn in the queen's side forever until death claimed her. He had true, independent immortality. Well, okay, guys, that is not how I expected this story to go. All right, so with him being undead, yeah, I kind of expected somewhere along the way the Queen of Hearts to be off with his head, right? And that's basically what happened, is that she felt betrayed. So she did murder him. She cut off his head. But apparently it was the insect lords that have magical abilities and magic powers that resurrected him, brought him back to life, and made him the Knave of Hearts that he is. And this heart here kind of, from what the description says, really isn't necessarily a heart, but it's magical enchanted pieces that are supposed to be a heart together. And it explains also all the chains, right, to basically kind of keep it in place and give him this life force. Again, this is not the story I expected for Knave of Hearts. Guys, let me know what you think. So we know that the Queen of Hearts is after the insect lords of Durham Forest. And the insect here and the lords basically resurrect the Knave of Hearts to kind of be their guardian, their protector, to fight against the queen, right? Really, really interesting kind of twist of events and twist of story. Let me know what you guys think. Drop me some comments down below, and thanks for watching.